Spring camp is all about guys competing for positions, coaching evaluations. There's going to be some important battles going on this spring on both sides of the ball. Marvin, Powell III, and I, we're going to tell you which ones are the most important and which ones will have a bearing on USC success in 2026.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone, and welcome to Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, also part of the #1 sports podcast network. That's Marvin Powell III. He's back. Look, whether you're watching this show on YouTube or wherever you want to download this podcast, you pick the platform. This show's going to be free. The show's always going to appreciate your support. And this episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. You can have your cake and you can drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or go to Amazon. All right. Once again, thank you. Welcome back to another episode of Locked On USC. I'm your host, Marc Kulkin, credential media member. And when I'm not hanging out here doing Locked On USC, I'm over there at wearesc.com. That's Marvin Powell III, former USC starting fullback, former NFL veteran, podcast host for the South Florida Tribune. He's now dipped his pen into the ink. He's writing articles as well. Marvin, where can they find you? Where can the fans read you?
Yahoo. I write for so I'm writing for Roundtable Sports. You can catch me there. I cover the Bucks, the Jags, and actually the Florida State Seminoles. And then I do 5 shows a week with the South Florida Tribune. I'll be hosting my own show on the South Florida Tribune this Saturday with Melfar Jr., former UCLA Bruin.
I remember
him. And obviously I'm fortunate enough to be with you here twice a week.
You are just growing tentacles like an octopus. They're going everywhere. Fantastic. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
All right, so let's just start on the offensive side of the ball, and we'll touch on the same topic in the second segment on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think there are a lot of positions up for competition on the offensive side of the ball. You know, if you want to go look at the offensive line, there will be some position battles, but Elijah Page, he's etched in stone at left tackle. Tobias Raymond, he's etched in stone to start somewhere on the offensive line. And then I'm pretty darn confident Alani Noah is going to be a 4-year starter at right guard. So again, there will be competition on the offensive line, but mainly just to get the depth chart figured out, nothing really more than that. But to me, it's the least concerning group in camp. I see you ready to say something. Jump in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like our O-line depth. I like what we're doing. I feel very confident with that. I think the question really is at receiver. I think at X, I think Terrell Anderson is going to start. At the Z, I don't know. Booby Feaster, Kaden Wine Dixon, Tanook Hines. And then you look at the slot, I'm thinking, is it going to be Zachariah Williams? Is it going to be Trent Mosley? So the receiver is really where I'm looking to see these guys, see who's coming out there on the A side. I expect we're going to be rotating guys. I think a lot of these young freshmen are going to be playing. But that's really the position I'm looking at, as well as running back, even though I know Waymon is the better player. Again, I want to see how that ankle looks and how he's able to cut and just explode off of it. We know King Miller is a guy, so we get him back.
No, I see, and that was perfect because when it comes to the wide receiver position, that is going to be the group that's going to have the most attention. You mentioned Tanook Hines. He is USC's leading returner at the wide receiver position. He's a true sophomore. And then you mentioned Terrell Anderson, who's the transfer coming over from North Carolina State. Yeah, those two are probably, you can probably use pen. You don't even need to use pencil. They're going to be starting at USC at wide receiver. But when they get to that third position, whether it's inside or, on the other side, on the outside, who's that going to be? Zacharias Williams, they're moving him inside just to look at him at the slot, at least during the spring. But you have to have that big wide receiver, somebody to complement. Last year it was Jacoby Lane. So is it going to be Terrell Anderson, who's I think 6'3", but I'm not sure if he's 200 pounds or not. And then you mentioned the freshman, Caden Dixon-Wyatt, who is a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, has more of that big wide receiver body. But here's the other X factor. He's a true sophomore. He's returning. His name's Corey Sims.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to get passed up by a freshman, or is this the group that we're looking at to have, to rotate in 3-4 wide receivers?
Yeah, listen, this year we didn't just sign, guys. We got dogs. I mean, we got elite players. We got playmakers. When I was at USC, the guy we had that was explosive other than Keyshawn was RJ Soward, and I feel like we have a few guys that are like that. And then you have the Luke Weavers, you know what I mean? So this is going to be a very interesting group. I think our receiver core is going to be solid. I will be curious to see who comes out of spring on the A side as the starters.
You bring up Luke Weaver, and that's probably that's an interesting point. Not that Luke is going to be the guy, but there's always somebody who you don't anticipate.
Exactly.
Kind of out of nowhere. Exactly. Not underrated, but maybe less heralded than some of the other guys who came in with that 2026 class. So Luke Weaver is one of the guys for you. Here's another name. Keep an eye on this guy. He's been locked in with USC. He's one of the guys who's been committed the longest to that 2026 class. Jamiron Tron Baker.
Right.
Played at Sierra Canyon last year. He's obviously at USC now. That's a guy to keep an eye on. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Jacoby Lane. So if he's got, any part of Jacoby's game, that's going to be pretty cool. So we'll see.
Look, I know it's only high school, but I mean, I saw the kid's tape. I saw his film. The film is nice. I mean, he's a player. He's a player. There's no doubt about it. So again, and he just adds to, my argument. I think this receiving room is going to be special, and I want to see who jumps out. There's been so much said about Trent Mosley, him being the best player in the state, not so tall, played for Carson Palmer. You've heard a lot of positive things, and, I'm just believing this kid really may be it, but we'll see. I mean, we will see.
Where else on the offensive side of the ball do you think the competition's wide open? I mean, you brought up running back. I think it's just a matter of who's going to be backing up Waymon Jordan and King Miller. Riley Wormley, but there's really no competition when it comes to, all right, running back 1, running back 2. We know who those guys are.
Right. And then, you hear about the NIL deal that Marc Bowman signed, and, based on that, he must be the starter. Obviously you have to earn it. They're not telling kids that you're the starter. You have to go in there and earn it when you put the pads on. So again, I know we have a transfer out of Wisconsin who's not known to be a receiver, but also wasn't in a passing offense. So I think it's Tyler Ashcroft. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I want to see, I think we have a JUCO guy coming in as well, who's supposed to be really talented. So I want to see what these guys do. There's been so much said about Marc Bowman, and rightfully so. He's an elite player, probably one of the best tight end in the country, if not one of the top 2 or 3. So he's special. I've seen a lot of his film, and I love the way he plays, and I can see him being an impact player. Absolutely. But again, you got to earn it. You can't win it on paper. Just because you're a 4-star, 5-star means nothing. I played with 5-star guys who couldn't get out of training camp. All right. I don't want to call anybody's name out right now. So it's a deal where the stars, they mean something, but you don't know what you got until you put them pads on. You go out there and get your feelings hurt and go out there and get low. You have no idea what you got. So, but I know we got guys. So
let me ask you this question, because you kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
What kind of pressure does the coaching staff, starting with Lincoln Riley, have when you've got guys who are making some big time NIL money? Do they feel a pressure like, we kind of have to force it in there because he's making that much money?
I think that question was answered last year. I think in these exit interviews, I think Chad and Lincoln sat down and were telling guys, listen, I know we had a deal. It ain't working out. I think you should look at other places. No one's told me how those conversations went, but that's pretty much what I would imagine, how they're going to go. So yeah, there's pressure because there's real money involved. You know what I mean? And you want to see a return on your investment. At the same time, Jen Cohen is looking to see if these guys are doing a great job evaluating, finding the right talent, not paying the wrong guys. We had that issue last year. We brought in, a couple of D linemen, didn't work out. We can't have that again. So you're hoping that the evaluators know what they're doing based on what Chad did in Notre Dame and what their roster looks like. based on what we already see. I feel confident in that. Now it's just about, some of these new coaches getting this young talent and transitioning it into transitioning them into real players who can go out there and produce. But yeah, there's definitely pressure on the coaches, man. It's whenever there's money involved, there's going to be pressure, man. That's just what it is. And there's going to be expectations. And now these players have a job to do as they're paid to do a job. So yeah, the level of accountability is going to be a little bit higher. The level of expectation is going to be a little bit higher.
Yeah, that last point there before we go into the next segment, the accountability. And the reason I brought up that last point about, coaches players who are being paid. There's a lot of P's in play and paid in there. It does cause some uncomfortable situations in the locker room, because you have players who might not be making as much, but they're doing the right thing and they should be on the field. And this kind of goes back to the whole USC choosing to go with Jacoby and Mackay versus Deuce and Zachariah Branch a couple of years ago. Some of that was in play going on in the locker room, and you, as a coach, you have to make that final decision. All right, yeah, maybe this player doesn't have the maturity level as this player does, but the player who's less mature is more productive. And it's just that struggle that's going on in today's locker room, between the players and the coaches and roster management. It plays a role. So, a lot of fans will say, hey, you got to be patient. It's like, sometimes you guys really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of politics at play in that locker room. Again, and it all comes down to roster management, not just for that season, but how do we keep this guy on the roster so he's available to us next year, but you might not be playing him the year that you might want to be playing. So one of these days, you and I are going to talk about this on the show, about how that type of stuff goes on. Give the fan base a little bit of insight. I've had former players tell me, Marc, I had to sit on the bench because even though I was better, they didn't want to upset those players who were more marquee names.
Yeah, you really want to get to more of an NFL model, that's the reality where, listen, a lot of these people's salaries are published, you can find out what someone's getting paid, but it's not something that you talk about in the NFL, really. I mean, you may talk about with guys that you're close with as they're trying to negotiate and you get information from you, but, I think it's something it's business, and I don't know if that's something that needs to be discussed, but you're dealing with younger people who are a little less mature, who aren't pros yet, technically, and it's a process, man. Listen, we have a few years to get through in trying to iron out and just become comfortable with this NIL transfer portal era. It's new to everybody. People are just having a tough time dealing with it. But at the end of the day, if you want more money, you got to play better. That's the bottom line, kid.
Absolutely. That's it. That's it. Play better, get paid better. All right. We're going to talk same thing in the next segment. We'll talk about on the defensive side of the ball. I think there's a lot more question marks there. I'm going to ask you where you think the biggest competition is at which positions. That's all coming up next. And then again, Friday rant, third segment, all that's coming up. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which just might be the sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to get taken at the top spot. You should know that 5-Hour Energy, right now, they've got a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned. I sent them my suggestion. I want them to develop a flavor that tastes like the cereal, Fruit Loops. I love it. That was my go-to cereal as a kid. As an adult, sometimes I need more energy, and 5-Hour Energy shots is what you need. So the first 5-hour flavor on my draft board, it's going to start with a strawberry watermelon. It's sweet, it's tart, it's the ultimate flavor duo, and some things just go together. Like Cardinal and Gold, watermelon and strawberry, they go together. The underrated flavor on the draft board for me, it's the Confetti Craze. It's a delicious blend of rich and buttery, freshly baked confetti cake, yum, smooth vanilla frosting, and just a sprinkle of sweetness in every sip. So find your favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots. It's available online at 5hourenergy.com, or you can find it on Amazon. Game time. This is the biggest stretch of the college basketball season. It's almost here. We're almost at tournament time. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, all those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Being there live for something like that, that's the bucket list type of stuff that I'm all about. The hard part, though, it's always getting tickets. You got those long queues, the price jumps at the end, and then those lame surprise fees at checkout. It all sucks. The Game Time app doesn't suck. It gives the fans the advantage. They're constantly innovating new ways of doing things. And here's what's cool. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences, and you can do it in just a few taps. It's easy to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets, and they'll be delivered on time, and they're going to be delivered at the best price. The best part, all the fees are included when you check out. No surprises. And you get to actually see your seat with a panoramic view before you check out. No stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, everydayers, if you're listening to the show, level on up. Do it ad-free. $5 a month, $50 a year. Check out the show's description page for more information, but you can listen to the show without any interruptions, and you get a whole bunch more than just that. All right, so not so much on the defensive side of the ball, Marvin. We talked about the offensive side. I think offense is in a really good place, and we've talked about it on a previous episode. This could be Lincoln Riley's best offense. Maybe not his most prolific, high-scoring offense like he had with Caleb in year one, but when I say the best, I'm talking the most balanced, the most where anything you want to do can affect the other team's defense and saying, what do we defend? How do we defend this? Not so much on the defensive side of the ball. In your opinion, which position battles have to be settled by the end of spring camp going into the summer and fall? Hold on, you're on mute. Somehow you muted yourself. So
yeah, by the end of spring camp, I need to. Well, the position that's on my heart the most, to be honest with you, is corner. It really is. I know, we have a lot of new guys. We have a returning defensive line, which I like, and there's a lot to be said about our linebackers as we have a new coach as well. But, just thinking about last year, and one of the main things that really bothered me about our defense was just not pressing receivers, not challenging receivers, not being aggressive with receivers. Obviously, with GP, with Patterson, he plays a more aggressive style defense, so we should see that. But I want to see Chasen Johnson. I do. I want to see RJ Sermons. I want to see what Marcellus Williams does as a returning starter, if he's going to get in there. We got Prophet Brown healthy at nickel, but at the corner, I want to see who our guys are. I know we have Jontez Williams, the transfer portal guys. He's coming off injury, so I want to see how healthy he is in the spring. Hopefully he's playing in the spring.
He's going to be pretty much walk-through stuff in the spring.
Okay, yeah. So again, that's the position because he's the guy they're leaning on the most. I mean, he's their big transfer portal guy. He's the guy they're leaning on. That's the group that I want to see the most. The corners. I want to see what they do. Physicality, cover. I mean, all I'm hearing are good things about their athletic ability. Chasen didn't play last year, but he was a player when he was at UCF. And Jontez was great until he got hurt this past season. So corner. We need solid corners. I played with Brian Kelly and Dalen McCutcheon. So, I'm accustomed to having really good corner play. And I know USC has a long list of history of outstanding corners. Could be CBU. That's another conversation. But yeah, corner is a position that I'm really looking at, Mark.
So I'm going to stay in the secondary with you. I know everybody's concerned about the linebacker room, and for good reason. But Coach Mike Eckler said it's the most talented room he's ever seen. So
Stevie Wonder, right?
That's right. Ray Charles. Even Ray Charles can see it. But I'm going to stay in the secondary with you. I understand where you're coming from with the cornerback position. My concern is there enough in the safety room? Does USC have enough? Not only enough bodies, do they have enough speed in the safety room? That's not really, I didn't see it last year, and they didn't bring anybody in through the transfer portal to kind of supplement that room. You mentioned Prophet Brown. I think he's going to be at nickel. He was supposed to be the starting nickel last year before he got hurt. Then Alex Graham was going to take that over as a true freshman. He got hurt. Here's the thing about Graham. He can play corner, and I think he can play that boundary corner, but he can also play safety. He's got the speed. But after that, I mean, Christian Pierce, he's out this spring. So he's recovering from his from that shoulder surgery that he had. You got Kennedy Urlacher, who's returning with some playing experience.
And I like him. He's more of a box safety, though.
Exactly. So that's my question to you. If you look at the roster personnel, the personnel on the roster, do they have enough in that room? Because to me, I was shocked that they didn't grab somebody out of the transfer portal.
Right. With this current defensive staff and even the staff that Danton had with the same players, one of the things that we hear about was versatility. And guys be able to go to safety, to corner, to nickel, and just learn various positions, which is outstanding, which is great. So, I would imagine that Gary Patterson, just in trying to learn his players and see these guys for the first time in pads, I'm imagining that he's going to try different guys out at different positions. We have a lot of speed at corner. I think we have some speed at corner, guys who can run. Maybe they take one of these young corners, put them at safety. I don't know. But you're right. I mean, the safety position is one where we need to have guys who can cover the field, go sideline and sideline, help on the deep ball. So it'd be very interesting to see what they do, what Gary comes up with. I'm sure he has a plan. He's watched the film. He knows what he's working with to a degree. But this spring, he'll be able to see it firsthand for the first time. And listen, I'm counting on those guys to put together a plan, to put together a structure, to put together, a secondary that makes sense. I believe we have enough blue chip athletes back there to be successful. So now it's really on the coaches to do their job. We've given them the ingredients. They went shopping, got all the ingredients that they wanted. No, seriously, now it's time to cook me that meal. You know what I mean? So, yeah. We got the best players money can buy, baby. You know what I mean?
The irony of this whole thing is, the Gary Patterson's defense is built around the safety position. That's where it starts.
Right.
And the fact that they didn't address it either tells me that Gary looked at the personnel in his room and says, I'm good. Maybe he and Mike Eckler, they've got the trained eyes.
Marc.
So go ahead.
These guys were really confident in that meeting, in that conference you guys did when you interviewed all the assistants. I thought they were really confident. You didn't hear really anybody say that they felt they were lacking. Obviously they're not going to come out and be negative, but I believe that. I think these guys, looked at our roster, saw the film from last year. I think they feel good about what they see in these workouts that these guys are doing. They feel good about it. They do. I feel good about it. I want to see what they do with it, though. See what they put together, because they have a lot of options with different kind of players.
No, and I love the point you just touched on, because that's the perfect segue that we're going to go into segment 3 with my Friday rant. Misconceptions and complacency. You talked about how the coaches were so positive about everything. Well, duh. They're not. I agree with you. They're not going to say anything negative. They're not going to look at the meeting and say, yeah, you know what? I got my work cut out for me. I don't have the people I need. I don't have the players. So with keeping that in mind, okay, it's not that they were overly positive. They were, they're excited to get to work. They like what they see. It's not that I'm overly negative. It's that I'm going to point things out. I've had people tell me, Marc, before the season, you said they were going to go 10-2 and 11-1, and they didn't. And it's your fault. It's like, hold on a second. I got your expectations up. Now, if I call, there goes a fire engine, I say, big red truck, duh. People get upset when you point out some obvious things. And especially if they know it's true and they just don't want to admit to it, at least parts of it. So I'll tell you what I'm talking about coming up in the next segment. Coast Pay is giving Locked On College listeners up to a $2,000 credit for your business when you get started today. If you manage a crew, construction, HVAC, landscaping, any operation with trucks on the road, you already know how messy gas and material spendings can get. Cards get shared, receipts disappear, and month end turns into a headache. Coast Pay fixes all of that for you. Coast Pay is the modern fuel card and expense management tool built specifically for fleets. Fuel maintenance, materials, all on one card with real control and instant visibility. Every transaction shows up the moment it happens. There's no surprises. If someone fuels up at an odd time or tries to buy something outside their limit, you're going to know instantly. So if you're in charge, you'll love these features. You got fraud protection with employee check-ins by text, no shared PIN numbers, and it works anywhere Visa is accepted. There's no detours where you have to go to specific stations. Coast is built for operators who don't have the time to chase paperwork, and unlike those old fuel cards, there are no contracts or commitments, just smarter expense control. Right now, Coast Pay is offering our listeners up to a $2,000 credit when you get started at coastpay.com/lockedoncollege. Go to coastpay.com/lockedoncollege to see how you can earn that $2,000 credit. Terms will apply. The Coast Visa commercial credit card is issued by Celtic Bank. All card accounts are subject to credit approval. All right, everyone, listen carefully. All of you, there is not one person out there, I promise you, who loves USC more than I do. You might love them as much as I do, but you don't love the program, the school, as much as I do. And I know you don't love it as much as Marvin, who's left some blood and some skin in Howard Jones Field on the Coliseum floor. In fact, I love USC so much, I'm willing to call it out. That's my relationship. I'm not going to pretend that USC is perfect and that she's not at fault when there is fault to be taken. But some of you treat this program like it's a youth soccer team. I'm talking about USC. You know, a bunch of soccer moms out there believe, hey, let them just go play and have some fun. That's what it's all about. No, it's not. It's not, especially in today's era of college football. So I got this really long response to me saying that USC got caught without a backup contingency plan. This goes back to the whole USC Notre Dame negotiation. Look, I'm sorry. That's the fact. And I'm sorry if that upsets you. However, one school had a team literally ready to sign a contract. USC was scrambling to find a team 3 months after that fact. So I got a response from, her name was Yvette Colmenero, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. I apologize if I did not. Anyways, she said, I hate to say this, Marc, but it must be said. Your negativity about USC at so many levels is just egging on the rabble to continue their negativity as well. In other words, I'm the puppet master right now. I hoped all the negativity coming from the coaches at I hoped all the positivity coming from the coaches at Media Day would be enough of a clue to you to get away from the negativity, especially towards head coach Lincoln Riley. But apparently not. And you know, then there was a couple of pejoratives that were thrown in there. I won't read those. But here's my response to that first part. Lincoln Riley was not naive. She felt that I said Lincoln Riley was naive, dealing with the Notre Dame, because you know USC gave Notre Dame 4 dates to play us, and Notre Dame's a team that said, nope, we're not going to do it. Here's my response to that. Was one of those 4 dates the last game of the year in Los Angeles, like it was supposed to be? Because if it was, if USC said, all right, well, we want to play at the beginning of the year, week 0 or in September, but you know, we're willing to do it at the end of the year in November, like it's originally scheduled. Okay, if it was, you would think Notre Dame would jump on that, right? Because that was when they were scheduled to come out. And it keeps the negotiations going on for another year. So she continued. She goes, forget about Notre Dame already. That ship has sailed. San Jose State is a fine third non-conference opponent, especially since most of all the top teams in the country are scheduling similarly. See, here's my thing. That's not a, quote, finger quote, fine replacement. It's what was left without having to dip in to the whole FCS pool of teams. That's what I said. USC was still scrambling, at the end of February to make that announcement. It's San Jose State. Notre Dame was ready with BYU. And when I say USC got caught with their pants down, is, people say, well, USC went in there believing that any team, anytime, anywhere, the whole thing that Notre Dame was saying. Stop it. This is what I'm talking about. That is a catchphrase. That's a slogan. I had that on the back of a T-shirt. Any team, anytime, anywhere. So all Notre Dame was doing was using that catchphrase and throwing it out there. And when you're going into a high-stakes business negotiations, okay, Jen Cohen, Lincoln Riley, whomever was involved in the talks, when you're going in, you have to have a backup plan. And it was apparent that if USC did, it wasn't one that they were ready to roll with. Because again, let me use this as a perfect example. There are every team in the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, they're all playing 10 Power 4 teams in 2026. It's only the Big 10 conference that doesn't do it. So remember that time it was USC fans, we would always point our finger at, look at how those guys are scheduling out of conference. They're soft, it's Charmin. Guess what USC is doing now? And USC fans are accepting it. They're falling into that they're getting complacent. They don't understand what the standard is, Marvin, and it's really starting to upset me a little bit. And she continued. And here's what I would say to that, where, well, there's a positive that the coaches, they get to look at the younger players in those first 3 games and evaluate them. Here's what I would say to that. Yeah, you're playing a soft schedule up front, but how did that work out for USC last year? They had a pretty soft couple of games, and then when you started getting into the meat of the schedule, were those guys ready to play? Did it happen? And let's go to the end of the year. How did it look in the bowl game when all those young guys were given an opportunity? So no, you can't just say, well, yeah, but the young guys are going to get an opportunity to play. That's a benefit. It's great. I agree. It's huge. But that doesn't guarantee success. She continued, we all want to make the playoffs, but most don't say it's now or never. And this is where I think it really bothered me. Show some patience, relax, enjoy the season ahead. This could be the year, even considering our team is still very young and the schedule is tough. This is where my rant really stems from. Show some patience? Really? Do you really want to say that with a straight face to me, to Marvin? This is year 5. The product on the field isn't close to that USC standard. Again, that's the type of response that is taking over the USC fan base. It's complacency. And I think people are just getting used to it and saying, well, let's just enjoy the season. I don't know if I can do that, Marvin. I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to pick on this one person, but it really got to me a little bit that people perceive me as being negative because I'm holding USC to a standard, their own standard, the one that you've talked about.
Yeah, I think you have different levels.
Because I'm just.
No. I hear you. I think you have different levels of USC fans. You have people who it means something different to them based upon their age, based upon their relationship to the school. If you don't know, Notre Dame is a part of who we are. It's a part of our identity, okay? The fact that we're not playing Notre Dame this year, I understand what she's saying when she's saying move on this year. But they're not on the schedule. We have to focus on San Jose State and go from there and get ready for Big Ten play. I get all that. I do. But in the big picture, I hope that right now that Jen Cohen and Lincoln Riley have heard enough and received enough of the backlash that they realize that maybe they should have pushed for Notre Dame a little bit harder. Maybe they should have taken a different route. I'm somebody as a Trojan alum, as the son of a Trojan, as someone who understands our culture and who we are and what this is about, we absolutely should be playing Notre Dame. Now, you got people who out there who say, well, we're in the Big Ten. We play a Big Ten schedule. It's tough. So what? So this is what it is. This is what you do, So this is part of who we've always been, all right? We came out of, one of the best, the Conference of Champions in the Pac-10. Okay, so when we've played competitive schedules with the non-conference schedule before, and moving forward, we have to get back to that. We need to find a way to get them back on the schedule. We do. It's really sickening that we're not playing them. I'm focused on this year. I'm focused on winning this year. I'm not going into the season crying about Notre Dame, but I hope that we understand as an administration, the leadership group, I hope they understand that we have to get them back on the schedule just so we continue on with who we are. I understand that traditions change. You get new traditions. We've been doing the same thing for 100 years and things change. I get all that, but we play Notre Dame. We play Notre Dame. That's something that we just do. We play just like Army plays Navy. We play Notre Dame. So we're going to play this season. I have the highest of goals and expectations for this year. I'm excited about this year already. Spring ball can't come soon enough. I think what's the countdown, Mark? We're 184 days.
Well, if you're watching this episode, it's 183 days.
There you go. I'm counting them days. That's who I am. So, man, I'm excited about this year, and I'm excited about the opportunity to get Notre Dame back on the schedule at some point. I'm not crying about it, but I'm just really speaking my heart to Jen and to Lincoln and to Chad. You guys are new to this. You guys are here now, and all of y'all will be gone at some point, hopefully a long time from now, after we win a bunch of championships and make this the mecca of college football. But Notre Dame, USC is something that USC people want to have. It's disgusting to a lot of people that we're not playing them.
And again, for me, it's even though USC Notre Dame is on a hiatus for whomever, there's plenty of blame to go around on both sides. Okay, this is not me blaming USC solely for this, but if the other opportunity to play at the end of the year in November was on the table, and USC was the one to say no to it, that I would hope that would bother USC fans a little. And here's the final thing from Yvette that I wanted to touch on, because I think some of you out there, and I appreciate it, give me way too much power. Okay, I don't have that type of reach. I'm not the puppet master. I'm not affecting recruits and their parents' decisions. And it stems from this. Potential recruits and their parents need to hear more positives than negatives from this podcast. After all, why would a parent or a recruit want to commit to a school where the fans are cheering for the head coach to be fired? You heard the coaches at the media. That is what those recruits and parents need to see and hear more often. Otherwise, I'm wishing the best and praying for you. Fight on for USC. Fight on forever. Okay, here's what I would say to that. I talk to the parents. I talk to the recruits off camera. Their concerns aren't what I'm saying on this show. Their concerns aren't me criticizing or being critical or looking for ways for the USC football program to be the best it could possibly be. And number one, you can't find a segment on any episode where I said fire Lincoln Riley. I've never said it. Those words have never been in the same sentence coming out of my mouth, ever. So I think sometimes people hear what they want to hear and they form this own narrative in their head. And I bet all I would say is this, okay? Trust me when I say this. The parents and the recruits, when I'm talking to them off the record, that type of stuff, they're not concerned about what I'm saying here. They want to know, Mark, what's going on behind the scenes? Is this accurate? Did this really happen? That's when I'm divulging that information. I'm not divulging it here. Trust me, Marvin, and I'm sure going back to your days when you were playing at USC, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about that would not shine brightly on USC when it comes to how things are done. You really don't want to know how the sausage is made. Trust me on this, because it gets messy sometimes.
Look, Mark, in homes all around the world, man, you got mostly loving homes, and in those loving homes, you got a little bit of dysfunction. You know what I'm saying? And that's normal. That's just what it is.
Every program, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, they all have it.
What I would recommend, if you USC fans who are watching this show, I watch Locked On, but the different schools, various schools. It's all the same. Everybody speaks objectively and talks about the pros and cons, and they all go there. I watch them. All of them. So, listen, for me, this is a positive show, man. I think we're honest. We tell it like it is.
That's
I
it.
think we absolutely support Lincoln.
Yes.
We hold Lincoln to a high standard for good
Yes.
reason. But I think we have a guy. I think we have a dude who has been super successful, and I think I think now's the time for him to do something. I think he has an offense, like you said, probably the best offense he's ever had, especially while being at USC minus Caleb Williams. Even though I like Maava, and the defense should be the best defense we've had. I mean, that's what I'm expecting. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is me being excited. This is me saying, all right, they've got the pieces. Let's make it happen. Don't disappoint me again. Nobody wants to be disappointed 5 years in a row. They were so close in year one, but that was all Caleb Williams doing what Caleb Williams does. I mean, the dude is just a freak. He's one of one. He's a Kobe Bryant. He's a Michael Jordan. He's a Larry Bird, a Magic Johnson.
Mark, are you ready to say that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback that we've ever had at USC?
Ooh. I would say he's the most talented quarterback.
He's the best we've ever had.
Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer is the type of quarterback you create in a lab. 6'5", 230 pounds, strong. Back then, he could run. He could throw a ball from end zone to end zone.
Mark, I played with Carson.
I know what I'm talking about.
When I was a senior, he was our freshman starting quarterback. He's the real deal. And I've said since he retired that he is the best quarterback we've ever had at USC until I saw Caleb Williams.
There you go.
All right. So anyway.
Yeah. There you go. There it is. So I want nothing more than to watch USC revert back to being USC. Kicking butt, taking names. Give me your lunch money. Give me your milk. That's who USC was. Mm-hmm. That's who USC needs to get back to. And no, it's not about being patient anymore. This is year 5 of Lincoln Riley's 10-year tenure. They bet, yes, it's now or never.
When I was at USC, Hugh Jackson used to always say that we have to be the bully. We got to go in there and be the bully. We got to go in there and be the bad guy. And I used to love that. And you're right. And that's what you're saying, Mark. And that's what it is. So.
This is my final comment, and we're going to close the show on this. I want the fans to be intense about the season. I don't want you sitting back and waiting and thinking, it's a tough season. I should anticipate, a bunch of close losses again. No, don't accept that. Expect, and I hate using the word, but expect more. Expect that USC standard. After the first 3 games, I want to see USC have scored 120 points, 30 combined points of those other 3 teams. That should be the point spread at the end of 3 games. USC scored 120. They scored a combined 30. And now you're getting into your conference schedule. You have to beat Oregon this year. You can't let that keep continuing. Otherwise, you're running in peanut butter. All right, that's all. I'm rambling, and I don't want to do that. The show's already way over time. Marvin, thank you again. Yvette, thank you for your question, comments, statements. I love all my USC fans. I love the entire Trojan family. Some of you might get under my skin sometimes, but as Marvin said, that's family. There's some dysfunction. And if you love somebody, you're going to tell them that you love them, but don't do this anymore. And that's what I'm telling USC. Stop losing. Start being USC again. All right, I will be back with another episode of Locked on USC. 5 times next week we're going to be doing this. USC Hoops, man, they take on Nebraska this Saturday. If you can get out there, get out there. They need your support because it's starting to look rough right now. Till the next episode, everyone. Notre Dame sucks. You know what to do.